And to inhale and see if you can access a quality of sweetness in your life. And I would say for myself and many of us that who I know well, that might not be accessible. So you could substitute what word is actually true for you. And in response to some of the check-ins, a lot of times we hear about the positive aspects of connecting to the whole continuum of the, what I would call the happinesses. So sweetness would be included in there. And what's been real for me is the very advanced nature of that in the face of extreme distress. And it may or may not be accessible, but it is a discipline worth pursuing. And so seeing right here with your breath, where you might be able to pull in anywhere from basic goodness to sweetness in a way that feeds the part of your heart that is, I think for myself, the language that I use, cracked, that is in need of healing. And if it's available through the interweb, sensing our common humanity in this community of holding our part of the world's healing that we do as a community and individually in the Four Corners space. And then in particular, sensing where you can stay with the exhale perhaps longer, and the sweet quality of getting a true exhale, if that is available to you. And at any time that if the language doesn't match, just simply being with your felt experience and adapting it to what is true for you. And extending through the exhale through the mouth is, for many people, one of the ways to get into a parasympathetic response, a rest and digest response. So just seeing if that is something that you can track in your nervous system as you find the quality of extending, completing the exhale as much as possible. And sensing the incredible bravery that it takes to slow down and stay with yourself and actually factually feel what you feel. And how resourcing yourself with any of the basic goodness, happiness continuum is one of the ways to build your window of tolerance so you can stay. And we're going to shift into both a pose and a second pranayama. So I'm going to give options, as I always do. So we're going to come into either seated straddle, if that feels doable. And again, we're super early on in the practice, so you might sit up on a blanket or a towel. If you tend to get some rounding into the spine, something under your sit bones might help you to find that front hip point and back hip point more even. Feel free to make it a small, like a 2-foot straddle, a little bit wider. Blocks under the knees can be really supportive. So the whole point is to ground, to find the sit bones, press them into a thing. In my case, a towel underneath the porch that I'm sitting on, and then to begin to wake up the legs. So play around with that until you find a straddle that works. And if it's just too much, feel free to come into Baddha Konasana, feet together, knees wide. And then the pranayama we're going to work into is alternate breathing with no holds of the breath. So if you like, you could take your right hand, fold down the index finger and the middle finger, and take your thumb, close over the right nostril, and inhale through the left, opening up the left passageway. When you're full, close the left nostril and exhale. Seeing if you can find the sweetness of an extended exhale through the right. Soften internally and fill up through the right. Close the right, exhale through the left. And then finding your own rhythm here. Softening internally, fill into the side ribs. And that's just getting very curious about your own breath capacity. Finding out, is there a little more you can extend out through the exhale, getting empty, inhaling and exhaling at your own pace. And the next time you exhale through the left, letting that be your last round, coming back to a soft, wide, sweet breath in, if that's true, and then exhaling, finding sweetness in the exhale. And then from here, we will come into Baddha Konasana if you're not already. Pressing the feet together and then fanning the toes away from each other. And then from here, let's come into unlocking the hips. So you can sit down on the right hip, hold on to the left thigh, and lengthen the thigh bone away from the hip. Keep pressing the feet together, and then press the left sit bone into the support, whatever you're on. And then from there, take the right hand back behind you about 16 inches. And then taking the hand to the inner thigh, right close to the hip point. And then we'll do this inquiry, the same thing with finding the sweetness of staying, letting time in each pose be time with your own heart. Giving yourself time to tell you how you're doing. And you can keep coming back. It's natural that you might leave with your attention and just normalize that instead of making it an issue. Keep coming back. There's an opportunity to get into QL here, a long muscle in the low back, so you can knit the front ribs in and down. Pressing down and away, feeling into the relationship between hip and low back. And then from there, coming back up, lifting and broadening the ribs. You can use your hands to check in. Notice where you're getting breath access and where you maybe aren't. And then feeling into the transition of pouring the weight onto the left hip, holding on to the right thigh. And lengthening the thigh bone, noticing what shows up. Keep pressing the feet together, fanning the toes away from each other. Sit bone pours back down. Plug the sit bone down. Hand goes to the inner thigh, close to the hip. Opposite hand back behind you. Inhale, telescope big ribs. And there's lots of ways to play with this pose. For today, my suggestion is knitting the front ribs in and down and seeing what you can get in the back here. It feels really helpful for me to put my hand on my back actually to get that. So you can play with the position of the hand. And if you feel some resistance would be useful, you could press the thigh back into the hand, let that resistance build, and then let it go, scooping down and away on the inner thigh and the thigh bone. Feeling into the back lobe of the lungs. And then from there, go ahead and come on up. We'll come into deer pose with a chest opener. So we'll keep building on the connection to the lower core and come into the upper core. So you can sit again onto the right hip, tucking the left heel back. And if that does not feel good in your SI or your hip, you can stay in Baddha Konasana. If it does feel okay for you, keep both feet active. For some people, both hips will sit on the ground. For me, I'm just on my right hip. Both are fine. Just a matter of your tissue and mobility. And then from there, slide the right shoulder down. I find it useful to grab onto the ground and then press away. And then from there, like you're pulling a bow and arrow, pull across the chest, stretch up to a 45-degree angle, inhale. And then on exhale, moving the arm back. And then stay, sensing in some of these gentler back bends, we're going to be working towards a very supported camel pose for our peak pose, and just noticing how gentler back bends can be a benevolent way to work with the system, the nervous system, rather than try to find this big heart opener, finding what way can you find opening that keeps you in your window of tolerance, meaning in a part of your nervous system where you are accessing rest and digest, accessing an ability to learn and heal. Perhaps looking up, allowing the scalenes, these muscles that wrap around the side of the neck, to soften any amount. Bring the arm back in line with the torso and then down, reaching through all the fingers, connecting center of chest through the arm to fingertips. And then from there, go ahead and telescope ribs, turn towards the right knee and then fold. So it's like a very early pigeon. You could use a block underneath your head, moving the shoulders and the shoulder blades a bit until you can then slide them down your back, checking in with the back of your heart to access your own goodness and sweetness. From there, press the ground away, sense the response in your tissues and your energy body as you do that, and then come back through Baddha Konasana, feet together, sit bones pressed down to get tall, and then pour the weight onto the opposite side. Tuck the heel back if you're going there, or stay in Baddha Konasana, grab onto the ground, and then sense the armpit, the shoulder blade, whatever you can feel there. From there, pull across the chest, reach up, perhaps look up if that's okay for your neck, sensing the scalenes, and then taking the arm behind the line of the torso. So the scalenes are super sensitive to stress, and a lot of our devices pull the scalenes short. And in the body work that I've studied, there's this belief that having released scalenes has the ability to help you recognize and uptake sweetness from the environment around you, which is pretty compelling to try and learn how to release my scalings when I learned that. Sensing anything you can feel in the chest, shoulders, bicep line, all the way through to the fingertips. Move the pinky finger away from the thumb so you're broadening carpal tunnel. And then move the arm back in line with the torso. Reach, hugging muscle to bone on the arm and the shoulder girdle. And then from there, sensing what is your access to the space between the low ribs and the top crest of the hips. Lifting the ribs, turning, and then folding. Taking any movements that help you to get into that back of heart, upper back area. Moving the jaw in any fashion to find out what is going on in there. Extending through the exhale to help let the jaw go. And then from there, finding that ground force action. Press into the earth, give some energy to the earth, and then feel for that relationship. From there, come back into Baddha Konasana, and I'm gonna demo the first core piece that we do. And just noticing any psychological response to abdominals and how slowing down and staying with sensation is a fascinating thing. So we're gonna work with transverse abdominal contractions with a heel strike. So picking both feet up. If that's too much in your back, keep your feet down. Otherwise, feet are up. And then from there, grounding into back ribs. Keep the back ribs grounding. Inhale, broadening into side ribs. And then on exhale, extending the leg, tap the heel down. And then if you have a surface, you could do so. Slide it back. It might be a little tricky with your mat. Both feet up. I'll do one more demo. Inhale, broadening side ribs and back ribs. Exhale, straighten the leg to about 45. Strike the heel, and then glide the heel to wake up that contact point of the back line, heel to sit bone area. So go ahead and come on down, either feet flat if your back needs extra support, or pick both feet up, knees over hips. And then relax everything in the upper body as much as possible, like Shavasana. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. You can use your hands to check. And then on exhale, straighten the leg, kick through the heel, tap the heel, striking it down, gliding the heel across the mat. Pick the foot up. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. Exhale, straighten the leg to about 45 degrees. Tap the heel, glide the heel. Knitting the front ribs in and down. Pulling the low belly in. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs, and then slow it down. Straighten the leg. Move the thigh bone away from the hip. Strike the heel. Glide the heel. Pick the foot up. Inhale, broadening back ribs. Front ribs knit in. Exhale, straighten the leg. Strike the heel. Glide the heel. Low belly pulls in. Knees over hips. Inhale, broadening. Exhale, straighten leg, tap heel down, glide the heel. Feel that connection from sit bone to heel. Both feet up, inhale. Exhale, straighten leg, move the thigh bone, make space in the hip, tap the heel. Come on back, low belly pulls in. Doing one more round. Inhale, broadening into side ribs and back ribs. Exhale, straighten leg. Internally rotate the thigh bone, strike the heel, glide it back. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. Exhale, straighten leg. Tap the heel down, come on back. And then place both feet down. And then see where you can uptake the energy from the TVA heel strike exercise. And feed that to wherever in your heart needs healing and grounding. And then from there, we'll add on a bit to this. So from here, bringing into this, some dipping frogs. So knees over hips. If you have a prop, you could use a block or a towel to squeeze. Otherwise, you can do it without. So option to use a block or a towel between the inner thighs. Internally rotate the thigh bones, which brings your outer feet to be parallel. Upper body stays as relaxed as possible. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. Exhale, squeeze your prop, and then you're going to tap your heels down toward the outer edge of the yoga mat to accent the internal rotation. Come on up, low belly pulls in. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. Exhale, squeeze, lock, tap heels down, and then slow it down. Bring the knees up, low belly pulls in. And then noticing where you have access to your rib cage, broadening back ribs and side ribs. Squeeze prop, exhale, tap heels down, get empty, belly towards spine, knees come up. Inhale, broadening into back ribs and side ribs, nourishing kidneys, nourishing adrenals, squeeze, waking up that inner leg line, tap, wake up the heels, low belly pulls in. Let's do one more, inhale. Exhale, squeeze, tap the heels down, slowing it down, come back up, low belly pulls in. And then place the prop to the side if you were using that, and then find stillness, and then stay, finding out, do you have access to sweetness, uptaking basic goodness, any of that continuum to fill your own cup with your practice. And then the last core work that we'll do, and we'll experiment with slowing it down, is what we did last week. So we're going to repeat tadpole, which is a combination of frog and straddle. So we'll start in frog, so knees over hips, and then opening the knees out into frog. And then from there, just going to your edge. So it might be, your frog might be here, it might be here. So knees aligned to hips, feet are active. Interlace the hands in your non-habitual way behind the base of your skull bones. Slide your shoulders down, reach your elbows up, and then relax your head as much as you can into your hands. From there, pick the head and chest up, and again, soften the head into your hands. You might do a press and release, press head into hands, and vice versa, and then let go. Inhale, broadening into back ribs. On exhale, curl pubic bone towards navel, elbows reach up, unlocking the shoulders, and then straighten through the left leg. Right leg stays in frog, low belly pulls in. Come down just a couple of inches. Bring both legs back into frog. Inhale, broadening back ribs and side ribs. On exhale, elbows reach up, straighten through the right leg, reaching through the inner leg and the outer leg. Fanning through the toes, low belly pulls in. Inhale, come back through your frog. Knitting front ribs in and down, and then curl pubic bone. Exhale, elbows reach up, straighten through the left leg. Using that action from unlocking the hips, moving the thigh bone away from the hip, moving energy through the leg. Low belly pulls in. Inhale through frog. Exhale and curl pubic bone. Elbows reach up, straighten through the right leg. Fan through the toes. Low belly pulls in. We'll do one more round here. Inhale through your frog. Exhale, curl pubic bone. Elbows reach up, straighten through the left leg. Low belly pulls in. Inhaling. Bend both knees into frog. Last one here. Curl pubic bone. Elbows reach up. Make space in the shoulders and the upper back. Reach through the right leg. Fan through the toes. Low belly pulls in. Feet come back. Gently roll down with the head. Gently help the feet back together. And then you can come into either knees together, feet wide, or feet together, knees wide. And letting yourself feel for this advanced pose of staying with you. When you are ready, help the knees back together, or wherever you come back to is set up for bridge, which is feet at hips width distance, feet underneath the knees. And then from there, I've been giving the option of walking the feet a bit ahead of the knees if you have tightness in the hips. That's been helping me with a hip flexor issue recently. So that is a possible offer. And then from there, moving the shoulders away from the ears. Inhale, broadening the back ribs. And you can give yourself time here to see, am I really getting that? I'm doing that a lot with myself all the time with basic moves. Am I actually doing inhale, expanding ribs, exhaling, relaxed neck. When you're ready, inhaling, broadening back ribs and side ribs, and then letting yourself have all the time you need to lift up into bridge. And then keep getting specific with your basic moves. Feet active, pressing into the inner feet. Pressing the ground away and noticing the response that you get in the front of the hips, the legs. And then from there, finding the position that most optimally helps you to connect to a sweet quality in your breath. And just seeing, do I have access to that? And if so, can I offer that sweetness to where my heart really needs it right now? And we'll do one round of Uddiyana to come out of bridge so you can soften internally, fill all the way up. And then as smoothly as possible, exhale all the breath out. When you're empty, pull the belly back, keep the breath out, lower down if you're not already. Relax internally and then fill into everywhere you can with your breath in the belly, the back body. Getting curious about where you feel drawn. Getting more curious about where you feel aversion. That's, as was brought up in the check-in, sometimes that is where we need to go. Sometimes not. Staying really present with yourself as you transition to rolling onto one side to come up to tabletop. And then in your tabletop, coming to your basic moves, again and again, hands are actively pressing, spread through the hands and ground the index finger and the thumb, shoulders away from the ears, and then lengthen back for your big toe. And then from here, let's come into a little bit of cat and cow. So broadening through the rib cage, reach the heart forward, starting in cow pose, and then lift from your kidney area. Let everything else follow the back bottom ribs. Inhale, heart comes forward, and then just notice where you have openness, where you have contraction in your spine. Sensing what happens when you move from your organs, like kidneys. And then we'll work into the neck release that we've been doing quite often in this class. So your knees could come wide, toes could come together, and then take a big breath in here. Begin to sit the sit bones towards the heels, and then take your ear towards your shoulder. So you can sense the relationship between the neck and the rest of the core. Inhale back, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, knitting front ribs in, sit the hips back, ear to shoulder. What I find is when I find this knitting in of the ribs, there's tension pockets in my core that I was just skipping right over, that I get the privilege of getting to find more places that could use some sweetness and kindness in my core. See where you can keep extending out through the exhale. And then from there, let's take it into an active child pose. So you could sit the hip bones back. If it is useful, you could pad behind the knees or use any kind of cushion to adapt for hips and knees. And then find a tented fingertips where you're tweezing the fingertips towards each other and see what shows up in the armpits and the shoulder girdle. Take any movements that help you to settle into softening the neck. And then begin to walk the tented fingertips over to the side. Knit your front ribs in towards your back ribs. Really strongly sit, especially the sit bones back towards the heels, so you're grounding. So you have a pair of actions. From there, flatten the palms, and then really get into contact with hands and the surface. From here, press the whole right hand down and forward. Press into the whole left hand, pull it towards you. And then from there, like you're steering your spine to the left. Keep knitting front ribs in, keep sitting, especially the right hip down and back. And then switch, pull the right hand towards you, press the left hand away from you. Notice what that does to give you more information about your fascia and your tissue. Feeling the wholeness that is you, that this practice can bring us back to recognizing. From there, go ahead and come back to your tented fingers, walk. Feel all the way through the transition into an extended spine and then lateral flexion. The way that the right ribs can press and the left ribs open up. And then flattening the palms, press down and forward with the left hand. Press down and pull towards you with the right. Feel what happens in the shoulder blade. Juice up the shoulder blade. See where you can wiggle it free perhaps. Find the front ribs softening down and in, front ribs towards back ribs. And then switch the hand actions. Press down and forward with the right, pull the left hand towards you. I just got a really nice release in my chest muscles doing that. From there, release that, come back to center, and then pause. And then from here, coming back, keeping the knees wide, just bringing the arms back to straight and pressing the ground away. The next pose is dolphin prelude. So from here, bringing the elbows down to where the wrists are. And you can touch the triceps to get the elbows right underneath the shoulders. You could keep the hands pressing together or interlace the hands. And then strongly reach your sit bones back and up. When you're at your stopping point, pause there. And then pick your hands up off the ground. And just noticing what happens when you draw the front ribs in towards the back ribs here. Notice where your hands go organically without forcing them. Actively press the tops of the feet into the floor. And then finding out what happens when you let every pose be time with your heart to tell yourself how you're doing, to let yourself know how you're doing, letting more be revealed. When you're ready, take 2 more high quality breaths here. And then gently place hands down. Transition back to tabletop. And then see where you can take in, what did that do? From here, we're gonna come right into lizard pose. So if you have blocks, blocks could definitely be your friend here. Let's step the right foot forward. Option to put the blocks or books or an object inside the front foot. Taking some movement here to get into the hips since we're coming right into lizard. And then if you're going there, you could pick the knee up. You could also work the knee down. You might want to pad that knee if you're keeping it down. If you're picking the knee up, take some time to really get the posterior chain fired. So getting the sit bone line. If you're a kinesthetic learner, you could check, go right to the hamstring insertion and feel, am I getting that support? And then press the inner right knee to the outer right shoulder or arm. Kick into the ground. For some people with sensitive knees, I have been told this doesn't feel great. I have sensitive knees, but it feels useful and not harmful. So I'll give it with that precaution of, as if I'm trying to wrinkle the mat in the middle, I hug my feet towards each other, and it helps me to really zip up the inner leg line and find pelvic floor. So you might find that isometric useful. From there, press into the ground so you're keeping your spine extended, reach the crown of the head forward. And then from here, let's come into warrior two so you can spin the back heel down. If you have the knee down, first lift the knee and then plant the heel down. Align the front heel to the back arch. And then from here, we're gonna come into warrior two with some therapeutics. Taking the right hand to the top of the thigh. Use your left hand to really sense where is the pelvis in space. From there, press down and forward onto the top of the thigh, right onto the quad. Scoop forward. Keep holding on to the hip, and to the best of your ability, getting ASIS and PSIS even. So just noticing where it feels like the optimum stability here. Curl pubic bone, finding that TVA engagement, transverse abdominis, that horizontal fibered muscle that's like a bodybuilder belt. Kick into both heels, keeping that back body in presence. And then keep all of that reach from the center of the heart, equally reach both arms, and then spin the palms to the ceiling. From there, let's come into some bird wings. So bringing the palms facing the ceiling. Inhale, telescope ribs. On exhale, forearms come out, elbows tweeze in, shoulders and shoulder blades down. Inhale to stage one. Exhale, forearms move away from each other, elbows tweeze in, shoulders and shoulder blades down. Keep kicking into the ground, give your heart support, and then one more here. Arms reach out, tweezing, shoulders down, shoulder blades down. And then let the arms come down. Take a feeling breath. And then from there, we'll come into warrior two with chest opener. So interlacing the hands. You could also hold, this is actually a great place for a strap. You could hold on to a strap if the interlace feels like too much. Using the thumbs to anchor sacrum down. Feeling the combination of warrior two legs with this chest opener. I find it a really interesting combo. Softening front ribs in and down, broadening into back and side ribs, lifting up through the spine, crown of the head, lengthening up. From there, releasing the interlace, slowly turning forward, step back into your plank, and then decide, knees up or knees down. Lowering down with control. We're gonna do both with hands on sit bones. Lift each leg, lengthen the leg back, and roll the inner thigh to the ceiling. So you're getting squarely onto the front of the quads. And then find the hamstring insertion at the low glute at the sit bone. Lift the legs. Feeling, am I getting that firing of the posterior chain? Elbows tweeze towards each other, using your breath to help you feel for the support to do these small but powerful back bends that teach the system how to hold more energy, how to build strength, reach length. Length is the priority over how high you lift. And then from there, lowering down, coming into your crocodile, and really letting this be a pose. Head on hands or arms placed down, palms down with the head to one side. Letting that belly to ground contact help you to feel into what is going on in my gut right now. From there, let's come into hands under shoulders, shoulders away from ears, pressing back through table into downward facing dog. Front ribs towards back ribs, spreading through hands and feet. And then we'll come into that vignette on the other side. So lizard, left leg forward. Grab your props here, anything that could bring the floor up to you. Options, knee down, patting that knee. Or if you're interested, you could also do reaching through that leg. Either way, seeing with knee up or knee down, am I getting that hamstring to work to stabilize my hip? If the knee is lifted, kicking like you're kicking into a wall with that heel. And then hug the inner leg on the left to the outer left arm. If it is a good move for you, you could hug the feet towards each other. Feel what happens in the hips. Reach the crown of the head forward, press the ground away. And then from there, seal the back heel down, align front heel to back arch. Come on up. Warrior 2 with fun and games. Take the left hand onto the top of the thigh, close up to the hip point. Another nice body work piece is to lift the top press of the pelvis away as you're pressing down and forward. It can get into sticky places in the hip. And then hold on to the whole right hip so you can really feel where is that hip in space. Kick the ground away, curl pubic bone, and then stay. If you have your balance and it helps you, you could close your eyes, imagining your legs growing longer as the tissues release and respond to the pose. When you're ready, keep all of that action, reach the arms out, palms face up. And then coming into another round of bird wing, biceps next to the ribs, biceps slightly forward, stretch the hands parallel to the floor. Inhale, broaden and lift the ribs. Exhale, forearms come away from each other, elbows tweeze in, shoulders and shoulder blades drag down the back. Inhale to stage 1. Exhale, squeeze elbows in like you have something very important in those armpits, shoulders and shoulder blades down. And then one more time here, inhale. Exhale, squeeze and drag down. And then from there, bring the arms back, let the arms come down, staying, feeling. Keep your feet active so you're grounded with each pose. And then switch up the interlace or grab your strap, using the interlace to keep coaxing the stabilization of the sacrum. And then feel for lifting the sternum without jutting the front ribs out. So it's a lot happening here. Can you keep the back ribs broadening while still telescoping the ribs and lifting chest bones and muscles? And then from there, releasing the interlace. Slowly coming forward, we'll take one more vinyasa here. Turning forward, come onto the ball of the foot, step back into plank. Lowering down, this time we'll come into baby cobra. So finding a high quality transition, press the ground away the whole time. Lengthen each leg back, roll the inner thigh to the ceiling, press into the feet. Hands at middle ribs. Pull the hands, grab onto the ground. Really feel the triceps getting into the action, heart reaching forward. Let length be the priority over height. And see how that changes the pose. Keep reaching the heart forward, reaching the tailbone back. And then stay. Softening the gaze, using the support of the breath. And then heart reaches forward, lowering down, taking your crocodile. From here, come back through your table. And we're going to come into our camel. So we're going to put everything together that we've put in the pelvic stabilization, the activation of upper chest, the breath. If your knees feel sensitive, you could do this as a standing back bend as well. So option to use a block between inner thighs or a towel to ground the inner thighs. So I'll turn this way. So let's build this from the ground up. So if you're standing in mountain pose, that's a great way to work it, standing down on your feet. If you're on your knees, take some weight into the tops of the feet. Press the ground away so you're waking up that ground force response. And then take the hands, thumbs on sacrum. Feeling forward, getting the glutes and the hamstrings online, picking the pubic bone up, and then letting height be the priority. So if you just work on telescoping, that is plenty. Maybe you look up, maybe you begin to come back, but let the priority be the sweetness of staying with yourself, even when there's a lot going on. Continuing to find out where you can find new information through using time with yourself. When you're ready, coming back up, and if it's okay for your knees, sit back on your heels. So you're not going into a forward bend right after camel, coming into an upright pose. It could be standing up or seated. Just see where you can find a neutralization from the back bend rather than come into a forward bend. And when that feels complete, we'll come into lounge lizard. So making one long line with your whole, I'll do right side, you can do either side, your whole body and the mat. Option to use a prop between the legs to wake up and strengthen and clear the inner leg line. Outer edges of the feet parallel. Grab onto the block if you're using one. Kick through the legs like you were in Tadasana. You're waking up your legs, sending energy down and seeing how that rebounds up. Find the most compassionate place for your neck. It could be ear to shoulder, just looking forward, letting the chin come forward. And then rolling onto the outer hip a bit. Seeing how that outer leg line can help you perhaps wake up the baby toe area, outer ankle. And you could do a cobra action of pressing into the right hand and lengthening the right ribs away from the top crest of the hip. And perhaps using that right hand to breathe into the organs in the right side. I know the liver is there. And then taking your time to feel into what is happening here, letting yourself let the Right side of the torso, soften any amount. And then when you're ready, take that to the other side. So you can just roll over onto whichever side you didn't do yet. Make one long line with your whole left side. If you're using a prop, grab your prop. Outer edges of the feet could be parallel, like Tadasana. Kick through your legs, and then begin to play with rolling out, making contact with the outer line of the leg. Another move here, it's pretty subtle, we could play with it, is squeeze sit bones towards each other. So the tailbone and the sit bones are in relationship that energetically help the upper body to find roots in the lower body, connecting the spine to the pelvis. And then you can find that lengthening of the ribs away from the top crest of the hip. And then letting this be an integration pose, time with your heart, time with yourself, seeing what is revealed to you. When you are ready, releasing your lounge lizard, coming onto your back. And then the invitation for a final pose is either Baddha Konasana, feet together, knees wide, or constructed rest, knees together, feet wide. Using blocks in any fashion that would support the pose, so blocks outside the knees. Even if you don't need them, it can be a really nice way to work the pose. And as we aspire to trauma-sensitive language, there's often a phrase that is that when you want to get out of the pose is the time that the pose begins. I always think about a way that could be gentler in the way to say that is that when we fill our cup with sweetness, with love, that we become stronger and we can get more resource to move through a challenge while staying in a resource place. And that for me is one of the sweetest things about yoga is I could keep living beyond my belief about where I had to stop and what I was capable of. And how can we challenge ourselves in a way that is respectful? So holding ourselves with that inquiry as we come into the most advanced practice, in my opinion, letting go, Shavasana. And again, whatever part of letting go is available to you, letting yourself find a way to lay everything down and be held by your home, the earth, by your community, by yourself. And by any other forces in the universe that are good and sweet to you. Beginning to hone your attention on the sensation of the inhale. And allowing yourself to recollect and recollect your own sweetness and goodness as you're breathing, uptaking that. As you're ready, keep doing that and take yourself on to one side, pressing the ground away to come back up. And then whenever you're ready, taking one hand over the other, over the heart, either both hands or one over the other. And feel for, if you have some extra, sharing out your sweetness and goodness with this circle of practice and beyond. Namaste. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Karuna.
My pleasure. Thanks, Allie.
Thank you, Karuna.
Pleasure. Thanks,
Randy.
thanks,
Have a good day.
you too. Bye, Elandra.
Bye.
Bye, Deneen.
You, Karuna.
Love you, Martha. See you soon.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. What a glowing face.
Take care.
See you soon.